Okay,
Please give your name and your address.
Okay, pull up Old Street for guy. I got nothing special to say. I want to say something before I ask the two questions. I'm a very outspoken person here. I hate none of you people. The only thing I disagree with you people is your policy. So let me make that again clear. Even Bob Thompson, I'm very tough about. Bob is a nice person, nice family. I don't like his policy. The first thing I want to ask is about the gas company. I hate this year again to pay double price on the gas. Is our general manager still asking for a franchise that we get a cheaper gas, or is he just on them to get us the natural gas and get it cheaper? I like that we answer that. That's the first question. The second question, I just talked to Mr. Jacobs about it. I got a lot of people approach me about the election. Now, I don't know how many people here in Ocean Pines pay the dues on a month basis. I don't know if it's a lot or not. But some of them people had approached me, and I think we brought up once before. The people say, Dutch, I pay my dues. I cannot pay the $900 in one lump sum, but I pay every month $100 or $150. So I think so. The person in 2014 who paid his 900 dues up before the 1st of May for the next fiscal year, I think so. These people are supposed to have a right to vote at 50. If Tom, maybe we disagree on that. But you people know who is a good payer in the month and not. But I think so, this is not democratic. If you look here in the United States, how many people vote in the general election in the state, in the country? They never pay taxes or own taxes. They can vote. And here the person cannot vote, well, he cannot pay the lump sum. I ask you people, that unfortunate bill is not here, that section, what is that, 301? I want you the people to look that into it over. I like you people to see they give the people who paid the year before the money to give them the right to vote in 250. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Dutch.
Thank you, Dutch.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Thank you.
You can answer my question when I ask or something.
Well, Bob, you want to just tell a little bit back
On the
first question, yeah.
Yeah, pertaining to your question about the franchise fee.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm working. My role negotiating with Sandpiper is directed by the board. It's not me making up as I go along. I'm following their coaching and guidance of what they're looking out for the community. Franchise fee is something that obviously is a discussion point. Nothing's been finalized yet. We've had some very good talks, not only between us and Sandpiper, but certainly our board's been involved, and we've had some updates and such. So I believe we'll have some news available in coming months to help shed some light on these type of questions.
Well, but Bob, I don't want to happen what happened lately with us. I don't want to happen, when you get a good deal for us, the franchise comes up my house. We get the gas, and it's just like what happened now with this guy. We don't get any social security increase. Now the government is saying, well, you get the gasoline cheap. Are we going to do the same system? I understand.
Your point's
okay, I understand. Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Yes, sir. Come on up. Please state your name and where you live, sir.
First, I just want to point out that my comments are meant to for consideration during the budget deliberations that are upcoming. My name is Steve Lind. I live on Stones Run, which is the block right at the Mumford's Pool, a very short walk to the yacht club. I enjoy happy hour. I enjoy weekends entertainment. I enjoy football Sundays. I spend big. I tip big, and I don't go to the Cove. I just want to tell you folks, the year-round population spends its money at other places, basically because the bar stinks. If you want to make money over the winter, you need a bar crowd that spends. Bar area desperately needs to be expanded into the dining room, and the simplest and most frugal way to do so is with high tops in the dining room area closest to the bar. The year-round bar crowd is spending money. They just don't spend it here. I'd just like to make a comment also on the October numbers. I'm willing to bet that that's mostly due to the banquet hall. All the numbers are combined. There was nobody at the Cove in the month of October. Some of you may say, look at trivia. We're packing the place with year-round folks. Sure, it's packed, but what I've seen and heard, last season we lost money on it. But granted, providing a service for 100 year-round customers is a wonderful thing. But there are also 100 year-round residents who are eating, drinking, and spending at other places. Waterman's, the Shark, Sunset Grill, Captain's Galley, Taylor's, and La Hacienda, to name a few, are populated by Ocean Pines residents all through the winter. And of course, when it comes to losing money, there's it's an amenity argument. Look, folks, by definition, it's not an amenity. It's a retail business that sells a retail product at retail prices that just happens to be located smack dab in the middle of Ocean Pines. It's open to the public, and there's no price structure that differentiates between property owners and non-property owners as the true amenities have. Calling it an amenity is like calling the marina gas pumps an amenity. Look, all I'm saying is, the first shot is just to try to expand the bar area. All right, we got 6 high tops added. We need more high tops. If we make it a lounge area right outside the bar, hopefully we'll bring back some of the customers that we lost from the old building. Okay, a lounge area with high tops would make a world of a difference. 6 high tops, if a group of 15 comes in, the 6 high tops are gone, and there's no more seating. That's all we have to do, and I'm talking about the winter, of course, just the winter. Okay, so I hope you consider this during the budget deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I am Ann Shockley, address 273 Windjammer Road. I want to speak to the CPIs coming up with Bob, and one of them is 3 doors down from where I live at 267 Windjammer. I know it's gone through the AR committee, and now it's up to you all to do a ruling, and I don't know exactly what the parameters of your rulings can be. It is 3 junk cars sitting in 2 junk cars in one truck, which actually is protruding into the road slightly in the driveway. The situation has been there since the summer, and I'm really hoping that whatever actions you all take are immediate, not just a lien on the property that would be decided when the property be sold, which is not going to be anytime soon. So I really hope that you alleviate for the residents around there. The house right next to this address is for sale. It's for sale for almost a year now, and it's not ever going to move with that kind of business going on next door. So I really hope that you all take swift and decisive measures to alleviate this problem. Another real quick comment for Bob, and I don't know how this works, but the leaf collection that they do with the truck coming around, not gathering the bags, the suction business, it would be nice to know when that's actually coming, because last year people would rake the leaves and they would sit there for 2 weeks and blow away before the truck had come. Now, I don't know how you do that, whether it would be a sign similar to a real estate sign that's flung in that area. Leaf truck will be here tomorrow, so that people would know. I know Windjammer has a lot of pine straw on the street, which is very detracting and also slippery. People walk. So just some way to let people know that it's coming so they can be prepared and more efficient. All right, thank you.
Just ask a question. We can ask a question.
Yes, certainly.
Ma'am,
Yes.
has this particular problem that you're speaking of on Windjammer,
Yes.
have any of the neighbors talk to this person,
Yes.
the owners, to ask them to comply or to clean up their place or get
Yes.
rid of the junk car?
Yes.
And what has the retort been or the response been?
Nothing's ever been done. The owner is a 21-year-old male who owns the property and is not the most decisive person in the world from my
Not the most.
observation. Decisive person in the world. There's been numerous letters sent through the AR process and whatnot, and everything's been ignored. So yes, the neighbors have tried to guide him in this problem and others' problems as well, but this problem. So, as I say, I just hope it's not a lien that's going to be at the end of the sale of the property, which will do absolutely nothing.
Perhaps you might mention that one of the wheels is up the blocks. It's not
Yeah.
even at a time.
Saw the picture.
Yeah. I hope you all saw it. I took pictures this morning just in case you did not see them and would like to see them.
No, we got it.
Okay.
We
Great.
got it.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No?
Well, I have, one thing I should
Yes,
say is that in my experience on the board, which hasn't been that year, is that every process we do try to resolve. Don't try to hold it off. But if there's legal restrictions in our resolution, that becomes a problem. We know we did buy a house not too long ago, and that was the first time we were able to do that. We
with
planned
success.
the losses, and we got more to boot, so we
Yes.
really did very well. But we can't do that in every instance. We have a process that we have to go through.
Oh, and I understand that, and
you know,
that's what I'm saying. I don't know your process from this
Right.
point
Well,
on,
we
so I'm
follow
just hoping that it's a,
specifically, yeah, and we always have the advice from Attorney General
yes.
to come in, help us out. We do want to resolve these. We don't like to see.
I'm sure you don't, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Joe. I'm not supposed to give you your name because you have to do that.
Okay. Joe Reynolds, 84 Watertown Road. With relative to what this lady was talking about, if that's coming up today in your discussions, I would hope that the board looks at the resolutions related to ARC violations and it considers fast tracking this. This could be fast tracked.
That's what I'm hoping.
The board is very reluctant to do that most times, but perhaps this is a case where fast tracking would be appropriate. I'd like to address the minutes from which were approved, I believe, which wasn't here earlier, from the last meeting regarding public comments from Mr. Tom Janicek. It says, regarding a CPI violation he received, he parked his trailer, a violation, in his driveway to keep his neighbor from parking in his yard. I don't think that's a correct statement, and I don't think it really makes the point of what Mr. Janicek is looking at, and I'm wondering what happened with this. Essentially, Mr. Janicek said that a neighbor was parking his car in front of his home on the road, on the grass there, constantly. And as a measure to try to stop that, he took what I assume was a licensed trailer and parked it in that location to prevent his neighbor from using that spot for parking. Mr. Janicek said he received violations from CPI for the trailer. His question to this board was, if he gets a violation for his trailer, why isn't the board sending a violation to his neighbor for the car? Now, the point was made that this is governed by Maryland law, whatever. But if you think about it, his question is a very viable question. What is the difference in terms of CPI between a licensed trailer on a roadway and a licensed car on the road? We send a violation for the trailer, but not for the car. So I'm wondering, whatever happened with Mr. Janicek's issue? Thank you.
Anybody else have any public comments? I see a man out there who I recognize. He's growing his winter beard, but I won't say who he is. Good to see you. Okay, well then moving along, no other public comment. We're going into old business, and the motion is the budget guidance for 2016-17.
Mr. Renault, we need to back up our public works.
Oh, the aerator?
Aerator.
I'm sorry. That's all right. That's okay.
And the
compliance, and the
compliance.
Yeah, we need to go CPI.
CPI. I thought we were finished.
No, we have to.
think we have to.
We can't vote
You want
until
to
we
you
have
want to vote
public
to table it until a later meeting?
So I'll go back to the original staff request to buy the aerator that's listed on the top of your sheet, the Jacobson, for $11,660.28.
I'll move the request form of motion.
I'll second for some discussion. Bids comparing these two.
Yes, I actually would like to know why the Jacobson was in fact recommended by the staff over jump boat. What's the benefits of the Jacobson?
Okay, the Jacobson has it's a wider piece of equipment, which allows for less up in a field. If it's wider, it's 52 inches versus 37. You have less travel back and forth. It was also originally spec'd out with the deeper tines, which is what we're looking for. So it's a larger piece of equipment, deeper tines, and when we leveled the bids per se, we felt this was a better bid for us.
Any more discussion? Got a call for the question. All those in favor of the recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes. Thank you.
CPI back.
Now the CPI violations.
All right, the first violation that I have on my list, 42 Seabreeze. Notice there's a gazebo, and there was originally a fence violation. The fence violation has been cleared up, so it's just a gazebo. That no permit, and it's too close to the home. The member has been contacted. There's been a lot of correspondence back and forth about getting it complied out. It has not occurred yet. Staff recommendation is send it to attorney for action.
Anybody got any problem with that? We have to vote on each one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation?
Aye.
Due to the gentleman growing beard and find this member in continuous violation of the guidelines, then a motion to find a continuous violation of, as well as my motion. Do you understand what he's doing? Yes. Okay. Do I, all those in favor of that amended motion?
We have a second on, second.
I'm sorry. Anybody have any discussion? All those in favor of the amended motion? Aye.
Actually, at point of order, it wasn't an amended motion. Jack moved for us to discuss it, and then Tom moved to deal with Facebook. It was, but it was the second one, and it was not amended. It was Tom's motion that we were voting.
Okay. So that was a unanimous vote. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. The second one, 43 Cape Town. The shed and the house colors do not match. It's in violation. We've sent information to the member. They have been contacted. No resolution has at this point. All right. Yes.
Before we go too far down that road, what I'm seeing in a couple instances, this has come up. Letter sent and it's unclaimed. Are we confident that the violator is fully aware of the violation and fully aware of what they have to do in order to rectify the situation? Because it's unclaimed. These letters are unclaimed.
We make every attempt, phone call, letter, a number of different means, but at some point we have to go to the next level. So in this particular case, we're recommending send a letter from our attorney to have them fly out.
So anytime we see unclaimed as far as, these certified letters or registered letters are concerned, you're confident that someone, either an ARC or someone in Public Works or whoever, has communicated with that individual. We're confident that they're aware of the problem.
I'm confident we've made every attempt to contact the member. I can't tell you that every time they've been reached. If someone's either not taking the mail, not returning, the call, there's nothing we can do to.
I guess what I'm thinking is, the majority of the population is Sensia, right? I mean, they live somewhere else.
Well, if they do, we have it on record.
Yeah.
And we send it to
Yeah.
their home residence, wherever that may be.
Yeah, and it still may go unclaimed.
Yes, sir.
In this particular case, because I just pointed
No,
out.
I know that.
In general, I understand your question.
It's a
In this
general
particular,
question.
for the folks in the room, this particular case, the owner actually stated on July 1st of this year that he would correct the problem. So he's clearly aware of the situation and has then later purposely not picked up the certified letter, I'm assuming, because he probably knew what was going to be in the certified letter. I will move that this person be found in continuous violation and move the attorney for action.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 267 Windjammer. You see the vehicles, junk vehicles. You'll note we have pictures of the truck on what appears to be a cinder block. You'll notice the car on the right side picture, obviously with severe damage with the wheel and the fender and everything else. So we're recommending that we move this to the attorney for action.
Just to clarify, Bob, just for, obviously, so that folks in the audience understand what this next step is. Now remember, next step is for us that we have to go to court, correct, before we can tow these things and get them off the property. What is the action that we can possibly take?
Well, the next step, the attorney will send a letter encouraging them to apply immediately, and if not, then we'll take action because this is owned by the member. We would have to receive approval to have them removed from it, and then we can tow them out of there.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. We actually have to get a judgment from the judge in order to remove them. If the judge says, no, that's personal property, you cannot remove those vehicles, we're stuck. Is that correct?
Well, it would be. That has not been our past experience.
Okay, good.
Good. Actually, looking at the third line up, you have someone who is behind in their obviously ignoring the situation. I would actually recommend that this board pass on sending a letter. And we go directly to court. Last, Bob, you're telling me courts are then to say, wait, that's going to cause a problem in the court.
What I can do to act more expeditiously is I can speak to our attorney about it, and if they agree that we can bypass the initial step, or in lieu of that, send a letter 2 weeks later, take the next step if it isn't rectified for the next court meeting. If you'll allow me to continue this out to get it to court, if we don't get compliance with the first letter, we can accelerate that way.
I'm going to move that we find this member continuous violation, that we authorize our attorney to move as quickly as judicious to get this issue resolved, so you would have authority to take it all the way to court as fast as possible.
I'll second that, but can we have some discussion on what?
Sure, it's open. I just made it, and now we're open discussion.
I just have a question about some of our procedures. Do we ever personally send anybody to speak, or is it always just pro forma?
No, we'll try to. The challenge is it's a verbal conversation. Hey, he said he or she did not come to. Having the written documentation is what we need when we.
Oh, I understand. Trust me, I'm all in favor of everything being in writing, but I was just curious if, in addition, where we have something egregious.
We typically try to do it by phone because a lot of these, I'm not saying this case, please. I don't know this man, don't know anything about him. But we've got to be careful with approaching knocking on someone's door to argue out a CPI violation. We've had some
not
recent.
talking about arguing at all. I mean, ways to talk to people without, getting into arguments. However, Ms. Shockley indicated that the neighbors have tried and they've been unsuccessful, but that's not sort of official OPA. So I was just curious if from an official OPA perspective, we've ever tried to simply speak with people directly, in addition to what we're doing, which we must do in writing.
I can't tell you that we knock on every door that's in CPI violation as a part of our process. I can't. I'll have to get back.
Not asking do you knock
You're
on every
asking, do we-
door. I'm just saying, have we ever tried that approach? Is all I'm asking.
I can't answer that right now.
Okay.
I will get you the answer to that.
Okay.
There is an indication on the one just before, where you go back to July, new owner stated that he will be correct shed cover extended.
That's probably a phone call.
That's a phone call or a conversation, sure. And that happens, I think, fairly. That's right. The one question, all of these, they say send to attorney for action. You don't really specify. I do not believe that it's required the attorney send a letter. I think what you suggest is perfectly reasonable.
Yep.
I mean, it's not. That's our rules. But on the cases where obviously it's before, basically before, you don't have to send a letter. Okay.
My understanding that Dave is correct. You don't have to send a letter. There are times where a letter from there actually gets me. Obviously, this person. But Dave is correct. You don't have to send a letter. But there are times a legal letter shows up. Well, you guys are being serious. I think I'm on what Cheryl said. I think in this particular case, it would have been trying to send. There was no way you're sending him letters, but you don't want to read. Just, an ARC person, somebody go over and knock on the door and say, this is what the problem is. So on, the guy can say, well, whatever. You should have some kind of a personal contact. If we're not getting, we know that
We know from this information that he is receiving the certified mail, but other than that,
Tom, I just want some clarification, because according to the declaration of restriction, from what I understand, legal counsel sends the letter to the members to correct the violation, and no legal action until the board is notified as to responsible owner and discusses the matter with the council.
right, and that's why I made my motion the way I did. In essence, we have combining those into a single step. This particular, it's the fast tracking that Joe was talking. So where in this particular case, I'm suggesting that those two have to be combined into this meeting, and we simply say he has the authority to bypass the letter, wants to directly to court. That I made the motion with exactly what I made it that way, so that in essence I'm combining those two steps without having to come back to another board meeting next month. And I'm not going to suggest this very often in these fast track things, because frankly I do think there is a process that's reasonable for us to have to work with our members to try to get them right. That's why it's written. But that's why I made the motion the way it's on.
And if I may, for clarification, I just got validation the CPI inspectors do try to make face-to-face contact with each other.
So,
call the question.
call for the question. All those in favor? And actually, what you recommended is, again, the court correct that.
So,
Go
instruct the attorney to take them.
everybody, just to be specific, my motion authorizes the general manager and lawyer to skip the step of sending the letter start if they choose that
provides them the option to award those.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I oppose. You oppose? Yes. Did you oppose?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay, and the next one up is 142 Windjammer Road. Nate.
Yes, you noticed the stack of materials out front, noticed addition of property with the weeds front as well as the back is the biggest part. So, shed's in really bad shape, old and stuff on the roof. So we recommend as our first step, send it to the attorney to see if we can get it to buy out.
Go through the process. Okay, so I know that we all.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion.
Again, you did, of course, but send to attorney for action. There again, I think in this case, the action, and this is simply one of those, send it to them, see if this will get them. Probably not likely. But I think our alternative in this case, is it not, is to take the action ourselves for the one property we got. With the exception of the items that we
Yeah, we can't remove any of the items, correct.
But for an example,
No, you're obviously you know that. Yeah, that is true. We as a board can vote that the supervisor, in this particular case, with that 5 out of the 6 of the city, to move to the step where we would discuss ourselves and add it to the bill for house things. But yes, we can. We have that authority to do that with a supervisor.
well, I think we have to, when we say send it to attorney for action, consider where we're going. I mean, it'll come up again, send it to attorney for action. And that's our recommendation. Yes, we can.
That's correct, yeah. What we would typically do if it came back next month, and more likely it would, we've at least followed the same process for each of these.
Right.
Unlike the 267, where it's a direct, there's a different level of impact. So you were correct. We'd send it to you for this month. If the attorney letter did not motivate it to be taken care of by the member, then my next recommendation would be for us to enter the property, clean it up. That would be,
Yeah,
that's correct.
I just wanted,
Yes.
it's different, it's a case of it.
Yes.
Well,
Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next one is 30 Falcon Bridge Road.
Yes, you'll notice the propane tank has not been screened. And this has been going on since almost a year now. Letters have been sent and received by the member. So we're recommending that we send it to the attorney to see if we can get some more action.
And he's been talked to twice, and he's
Several times, yes, sir.
Says he's going to do it, but he doesn't.
Correct.
Can we screen it?
Well, let me flesh this out. I mean, we got a guy in Hanover, Pennsylvania, and I don't know how much time he spends there. I don't even know if it's a rental. It might even be a rental. And the bottom line is that have we ever taken it upon ourselves, Bob, to put a fence or enclose that particular tank and then charge it back to the customer?
And for this
Not,
property?
well, I'm using this particular property as an example, but have we ever done it the past year? No. I mean, I don't remember in the 2 years that I've been on the board that we ever did anything.
I've got to tell you, I don't recall doing it. Mr. Stevens, I don't know if you recall having us go do so.
no, although I can't think of a single reason that we should.
Well, the guy's in town. I don't know if he's down here. I mean, I know.
We'll do it.
I know if I'm an absentee landowner or a property owner, I'm in somewhere, and if I come down here, I got to line up a contractor. Who do I call? How do I do that? Et cetera. I don't know if there are extenuating circumstances. That's where I'm coming from. Because the place looks nice. I mean, it looks like it's fairly taken care of.
I mean, seriously, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think this particular gentleman was going to run for board last year.
Yes.
Yes,
You're right.
Yeah,
You're absolutely
yeah.
right.
Marty.
I'll be darned. Oh, yeah. I'll be darned.
Marty's
Son
up
of a
here.
gun. What a small world it is, Bob.
Well, here's the thing. It's the same thing. It says send to attorney to act for action. And the action in this case is to send him an attorney letter. But the subsequent action, I think, is to screen it in and send him the bill. If he doesn't pay the bill, then all that process.
Correct.
What do you guys think of that? Do you think that's a solution?
I think that's reasonable.
Well, I think it's appropriate to have this particular individual get a letter from the attorney. I think he might be responsible.
Yeah, well, that's first.
Yes.
So that's what we're doing first.
And if it's not complied out, you'll see it again, and they'll ask to, if you want me to.
That is the normal process.
Okay.
Yes,
Unless somebody suggests a fast track.
yes.
That young lady over there, not a woman.
Okay.
Right.
So we're calling the question.
Did anybody make a motion?
No, missed it.
No.
I'll make a motion. this time.
Please do that.
I'll
Please
move-
somebody else do
I'll
that.
move that we follow the recommendation of management and send it to the OPA.
Continuing violation.
And continuing, thank you, Joe. You're out of order, but thank you, Wendy.
I'll second that.
Oh, next thing.
Let's not start.
Call the question.
I asked that, call the question, I asked Joe that question. I said, think it's crazy. Anyway, yes, call for the question, please. All over the place, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right,
Next one is 11 Garrett Drive, shed deck.
correct. So again, same step. We recommend sending it to the attorney to see if we can get some action.
Fill me in on that, Bob. If they build it without the permit, can they come and get a permit later?
Well, not supposed to. So let's start there.
All right.
So I don't want everyone running out building what they want, because if you're out of compliance when you build it, you're going to have to take it down. So, but there have been instances where something was erected on a property without going through the permitting process. When it was identified as in violation, they submitted the proper paperwork and got it complied out. So, in one of ours we saw today, we had the fence that was in violation. They complied out. It's now in the file. That was good. So that, yes, so it could go either way.
In this particular case, though, it says deck also an easement area, which is not.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to comply out. It's going to be, because it's in the easement, there are going to be several steps, and I'm not sure that will be approved.
They'd have to ask
County
for variance.
They've never been contacted.
Well, not due to failure to attempt. They just
No.
No, two were received. Two of the certified letters were received.
Yeah, the letter was received. Right. Last two. All right, any call for the question?
Well, first motion.
I move that we accept the recommendation to find the member in violation.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
45 tail of the box. The picture explains that there's a box trail on the property which is not in compliance. You see, they have received their letters. They have been contacted. No actions. So we recommend it sent to the attorney for action.
No, I move that we follow the recommendation and find the continuing violation.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
65 Boston. There's maintenance on this one. And the pictures, and you see the pictures, what they are. See the fence is in really, really bad shape. Whole backyard looks like it's in real bad shape. A letter was sent, was unclaimed, and we have tried to reach out, have not been able to contact them. So we're going to recommend send it to the attorney, and then from there, if it doesn't fly out, we'll see if we can adjust next time.
What can we do on something like that? That's so far out of compliance. Can you go in there and fix the fence, or can
Well, if you see how, I mean, looking at the fence, it's in really, really poor shape, so I don't know if we fix it or remove it.
Right.
And again, part of the challenge there is you'll notice the fence, the top two pictures is a different type of fencing.
Right.
And then the bottom one, which looks like it's around,
kind of around the swimming area?
it looks like it,
Covered pool and
a whirlpool or something.
right.
That's really.
This appears to be a safety issue. I mean,
I agree.
the lower right-hand picture looks like wiring sticking out. You've got a basketball thing that looks like the wind blew more than 5 miles an hour. What is the, I don't know how to answer this one, what is the step, comes to safety? Can we go take action on this puppy because of safety issue? But to me, this isn't just ugly, this is unsafe.
This is egregious.
This is
What I would recommend is let me talk to Joe Moore's office to find out what we can legally do. You know, some of this may be personal property. I don't know if you know, but the basketball net that does have the rust all around the side looks like it's in it's in the ground, which is probably in concrete. So I can certainly talk with Mr. Moore's office and find out what we're allowed to do with something like this. It'd like me to try to fast track this for a safety issue.
And in this situation, Bob, where every bit of correspondence has been unclaimed, do we ever attempt to post on a door or a garage door to get the owner's attention?
I don't know that we post on this type of issue. Post on liens, obviously.
Right, but where this is a safety issue, I'm just...
I don't know that we do that.
This looks like it's almost an abandoned. Abandoned property.
Well, I don't know, they've got the pool covered.
Yeah,
They only have to do that once.
yeah, right. But they do sweep the leaves off, I guess.
They may.
I'm going to move that we adjust this document to say the violation is and safety concern. Violation based on the safety issue. But if aren't safety issues, follow the process. We send follow the process. If it is a safety issue, whatever it is committed, we would do it. Because to me, this is a safety issue.
All those, any, call for the question? Anybody?
Second.
Second, please? Second. Anybody else have any discussion? Call for the
Well,
question.
I would just say I would like to consider posting something in addition, since it is a safety issue, just posting something there in addition to what we're doing.
I would hesitate. I would like to. I haven't seen the property. I mean, I'd really like to go some before I decided to say based on. But I don't know what we've done in the past. I've not heard whatever.
I don't remember that being done.
No, and that, I don't know what that would have to legal say.
That's just a letter asking them to contact us regarding the violation. I'm not talking about.
Oh, okay. You're not talking about a sign on the property
Yeah.
or a notice on the property.
Yeah.
You're talking about an additional letter.
Yes, just posting it to contact us regarding the violation.
And that step is an option. We don't. If it's again, leave it in the hands of the general manager and the clerk to decide next steps. Makes sense.
Or, personal contact, if that's been tried and unsuccessful.
Call for question.
I got it.
One down, ready to go. Call for the question. All those in favor say
Aye.
aye.
Last one, 18 Bridgewater. Again, a maintenance issue. You can see the pictures. We have been on the property before. We cut the grass and clean it up.
Let's do this.
We're talking, let's
See the condition of the garage and it's the mold, the paint's coming off of it. The gutters are full. Trash cans laying
yeah,
on the
well,
side.
some of that, all that is like blower cleaning stuff up. And, what are we saying? Are we requesting or telling him he's got to paint?
Yes, sir. The property is in poor condition. He's got to get cleaned up. I don't know. You can see the red.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. So he's got to comply. He can't have properties that look like they're in poor condition. So.
No, but I guess my reason question, we sent the attorney sent a letter, we've already been on the property, we've cut the grass, we're building. I just wondered, given that, why can't it go on the property again and do the same thing? I mean, how far can we go? We certainly could clean the roof, blow, we could, I think, paint the house. I don't know.
I don't know that we've ever painted a property before, but you also see, I'm sorry, we have, okay, so you see there's a door ajar, the garage door looks like it's partially open as well. I mean, there's a number of conditions on this property.
Well, so I think what we're saying is that the attorney, what we're talking about is a major fix-up, and I want to go to the attorney, or to the court to get the approval. I mean, I don't know
that we've been on the property to clean it up before, so we don't need.
I'm talking about painting, fixing the door, doing that's not, that's the problem, and that's what has to be fixed.
All right, well, what I would request then, respectfully, allow us to send the attorney's letter as we normally would, so we follow the same process, and by the next board meeting, I'll find out if, and it appears we may have painted properties before, I'll find out what the process we used, and I'll have that available at the next board meeting, should this come up again.
And the attorney's letter can indicate, can it not, what the next action board intends to take. Now, you can ask the attorney.
Well, it could, but that's good. Certainly it could if the board directs me to do that. Typically, we have a demand letter to comply with, and it's we have a standard process we follow on it. So, if we're changing his or her request letter, I mean, we certainly can, but I need board direction to do it. If not, we would just say, hey, you're out of compliance per this guideline. Here's what you need to have fixed. You need to repair it in 30 days. And then if it's not, it goes back to our board for further action.
Yeah, well, I can't direct you to that, but I'd like to ask the attorney worthwhile to tell the person what next action to take if he doesn't.
And I understand. Respectfully, though, I don't know what that action is yet. I need to do a little research. I don't want to say we're going to do something without a board vote to do so. So I really, before we put it in a letter, I'm going to need board approval to enter the property. If it's to paint it as an example, I need board approval to do so. I would hate to put that in a letter and then the board not give me approval to do so.
I'm agreeing that shouldn't be in a letter. I think we need to take the first step as we normally do and then see what, if any, action occurs as a result of that. And then you figure out in the meantime what steps we might want to take if we agree. I don't know that we want to get into a habit of painting people's property.
Well, that is, though, the likely next action if we get no response. I don't care about this too much, but I just think that if the person receives the letter and sees that we are, and I don't care how you word it, but that we are going to take further action. It kind of says, well, either they'll do it or I'll do it. It might be an incentive. And it might not.
Has he paid cuttings?
Well, see, I don't have anything on here noting that he's in arrears on he or she is in arrears on assessment. So I'm assuming that the charges have been paid because it doesn't say they were not paid.
Oh, really?
But I'm going to follow up on that.
That's a good question. It surprises me that you would have paid that.
Well, these were recent. Let's see, 10. Yeah, these were recent.
Yeah.
I can follow up on that. That's easy. Let me get the product. We just haven't been in the habit of going on to do major repairs. But by the next meeting, we'll have that information available to you, and then we can decide if we need to be a little more engaging with some of those moving forward. So with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and send it so they get the letter following the standard. Find them in continued violation, send the letter from the attorney, and then we'll sharpen our pencil a little bit for next.
I'll move to file or the yay or CPI recommendation and find the owner in continuing violation.
Any questions?
Call
Call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's the last one, Mr. Renaud.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you giving it all to us.
This is 2 months' worth, though.
It is. Yeah, remember last month we didn't have any.
That's right.
I heard it was
Well,
Dave's
we
fault.
had some. It was a little, but
I heard it was Dave's fault, but I won't. Okay, so you're done with your report, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let me dig through the paper. Okay, now we're on old business, and we did elections with November. Now the motion, budget guidance for 2016-17.
Motion is the board accept the attached board budget guidance to the general manager for fiscal year 2016-17. Background, the OPA Board of Directors has received input from the Budget and Finance Advisory Committee. The treasurer drafted a document after the September 24th board meeting, which was used to facilitate input from the board. Attached document is a result of board members who responded by the due date, which was agreed to by the board. The effect of the motion is that it provides the general manager with budget guidance from the board for the fiscal year 2016-17. So moved.
second for purposes of discussion.
Somebody second, did they?
I second it
Oh,
for
sorry.
purposes of discussion.
No discussion. Thank you, Dave.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few thoughts that I'd like to enter into the minutes as it relates to budget guidance. First of all, I'd like to thank Tom Terry for his efforts in crafting this particular board guidance. Though it was developed via email, I believe the process would have been far better served by holding a work session, but that's my point. However, it's still a yeoman's effort, and I appreciate it. To me, it seems more of a philosophical document to which I would like to add a few specifics. I have a few thoughts concerning certain items within the document itself. It is stated in the document the budget should be created based on the assumption that the commitment of dollars needed in future fiscal years will be approved based on multi-year plans developed to support the fiscal year 16-17 budget. Before adopting such approach, I believe it is necessary to order the priorities of our capital improvements, establish timelines to complete each project, and also be confident that the project will begin and hopefully be finished in that fiscal year and prevent accumulated carry forwards in future years. Also stated in the document, the GM will highlight those items that will not be expended during the current fiscal year, but have been included for renewed approval in the proposed budget. My question simply is why? If a project is not to be built or begun in a given fiscal year, why do we even bother to budget? Some specific areas of focus during the budget process I would like to suggest. Number one, assessments should not be raised. There should be a concerted effort, I'm sure Bob does this anyway, it's not an attack on GM or approach. There should be a concerted effort to reduce expenditures where there are identified inefficiencies and unneeded funds. Every effort should be made to reduce expenses and lower assessments. Number two, budget for and begin the process of hiring a consulting firm to study and propose the structure of our information technology system to include identify our hardware and software needs, our training and skill set development, determine the timeline required for installation and implementation, and determine the overall costs of the project. I would hope that that would be done in this fiscal year. That is the hiring of this consulting firm. Fund the two bridges repairs/replacements, whichever the board decides to do, in the 16-17 fiscal budget. Project to be completed within the coming year, and it looks like Bob is well along in that. Develop plans and specifications for the renovation of the bathrooms and the cosmetic upgrades at the beach club. The building is symbolic of what Ocean Pines represents. It is a vacation destination. As pointed out by others, Resolution MO2, paragraph 4, empowers us, this board, to maintain the beach club in first-class condition, not its current condition. The improvement would be one of the most popular ones embraced by many of the OPA members who use the facility itself. It has been discussed for years, and perhaps now is the time to make it a reality. Beach Club is a function that will be paying back the capital expenditures over time. It has created a positive cash flow, $392,000, excluding depreciation, over the last 5-year period. Fifth and last, before any capital expenditures are budgeted, preliminary plans and specifications, including preliminary engineering costs, should and must be generated. And I would hope that these points would be considered during the Board of Directors budget meetings. Thank you.
Let me respond to just one piece of that. That's the paragraph where it speaks to the general manager. All references to the carryover have been removed from this document. The paragraph you're referring to, Jack, just to make sure that we all understand the purpose of this language, it's simply to say when the general manager provides us with the new budget the following year, he gives us a report that says what was and wasn't finished, or will or will not be finished from this particular year's budget, and that if in fact he has included it in the next year's budget because it wasn't spent this time, to explain why it should be in the new budget.
That's all that's referring. It's not automatically approving anything. It's not carrying the dollars over. It's simply calling for a report that says to us at the end of the year, you had 15 things on the capital budget for this particular year. 13 of them got done, 2 of them didn't. And if you're including them in the next year, why are you continuing to add it to the budget if in fact it's, to recertify why that money ought to be spent? As far as, that's what that paragraph is for. It does not carry over any of the dollars, does not provide an automatic approval anyway. It's just give us a report at the end of the year of how much of the capital plan was actually expended in the current year we're in. So that, and if any of that is going to be carried over, number one, why wasn't it done in the year that it was supposed to be? And if there can be reasons why things don't get done. But if they're carried over, you have to recertify why it needs to be done again. There's no automatic approval or any carryover money. So just to clarify that for you. Okay?
Yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Dave? 1 minute.
I sent out, I'll address the document that's under the motion, but I'll note that I sent out probably, I guess, different to the board suggestions as to what we should do and what I feel is the problem right now with the current motion.
And I didn't, just for the record, I did not receive those in time to the documents.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree or disagree with what they've said. It's just how you can present your issues, because I didn't have time to get it.
Yeah, and I understood it, and
Okay.
I have to
Wasn't
admit,
clear on it.
I was, we had a deadline, well, sort of, but on the other hand, I'm done thinking what I'm done thinking. It wasn't, that's not a deadline. So I'll say just in general, and one conclusion I've come to is that we should not budget, and I'm going to use that budget in quotations because it's really not. We should not include in our budget any capital item which has not been approved by the board and which does not meet certain criteria, including a specified requirement means project definition, technical approach, project costs, ancillary costs, if there are any, and funding sources. I mean, those specific things are what define a project, its project definition. I'll point out that most of, not quite all this year, but most of the items that are in what we call a capital budget are being funded out of the replacement reserve. And most of them are fairly straightforward to find the area that we're just looking at. Some of them aren't, though, in this issue, which is done. My point is that unless it is a defined by group by board, it should not go into the budget. Some may say, well, in that case, pinning ourselves down to, all right, it's supposed to be decided a month or 2 months later that we really do want to do this budget. And suppose it meets all those criteria. Does that mean we can't do it? We've got to wait until the next budget? No, it doesn't. We can do it right then, right there, because the funding source is there. The funds are in our replacement reserve, and with the caveat that those funds are actually there. That's my general, I believe. Now, the examples this year are the White Horse Park bathrooms, and I think $150,000, which are somehow or another in there. The in there at 175,000. This is not that's they all come out of the replacement reserves. They're shown in replacement reserve schedule as on the bottom line as being transferred into operating and reducing the amount of money we have in. That means we're saying in that budget that we're going to take money out of those reserves and spend it. We're going to spend it on things that have not been defined, not been approved, and not been costed, even remotely costed. The result is we have the bathroom in the police station, which there are no plans for and no approved, and a $175,000 bridge or bridges repair, which is really closer to $500,000. I mean, I contend that our budget guidance should specify that not happen again, that we only put into the capital budget those items which are defined projects. Now, there's a number of other things. I can go down the list and talk about. I think the language, and I can't say for sure because I don't know the intent. I think the language, some of the language, as in this guidance that's written, is contrary to what I just said. It's sort of keep doing business as usual. And all I'm trying to do is avoid these fancy projects. So that's my comment. Yes.
Let me respond to that as being the guy who brought everybody's ideas together. The issue becomes, and just for full disclosure, Dave and I already had this discussion between us. I was a rest stop driving home from vacation.
It wasn't that great.
Well, he talked me out of doing the carryover, so he.
Well, we have multiple issues going on at the same time.
Here's the issue when it comes to budget, and you can get caught in a chicken or egg scenario. When you say that something has to already have been approved by the board, well, we can't necessarily approve a project if Bob hasn't had the financing and the funding to pay for engineering studies that are needed in order to put the full plan together. So the capital budget, unless you intend to take capital expenses out of operations for doing engineering studies for a capital project, you end up with a chicken or egg scenario where we can't have a full plan because we don't have the capital dollars to pay for the engineering studies. So the statement that everything has to be completely approved by the board before it goes into the budget is where I have it's a bit problematic in that, you get into a chicken or egg. How do you get to the point of knowing what the costs are going to actually be? Now, to take an example of and this is where I think Dave and I can find a middle ground. Take the police department as an example. Last year's budget, there was the dreaded placekeeper put in the budget. It's $500,000, I believe it was. The reality is that we may want to guide general manager that instead of putting placekeepers in, which would be full-blown rough estimates of a cost, you put in the budget the request for whatever investigatory dollars need to be placed there for engineering studies and that kind of thing, rather than doing a placeholder for a wild guess as to what the cost is going to be. And understand, as Dave said, this is under replacement reserve. So if in fact something is placed in the budget under replacement reserves, it does not immediately affect the dues until the dollars are actually spent. So you could argue that a placekeeper and I'll use the police department as an example. The $500 placekeeper, it could be way off. You could have a budget, as we did with bridges. You can have $175,000 in there and find out it's $500,000. I mean, this can happen. So to me, we may want to say to the general manager, we don't want these holistic placeholders where there's this $500,000 figure put into a budget when we really don't even have any designs yet. But put into the budget the dollars that it would take to quantify the plan in order to bring us a plan. And the issue is we only vote on a budget once a year. Dave is correct. We can spend money that isn't in a budget. But as long as I've been on this board, there have been nothing but upheaval from the public. And it is presented that there they go spending unbudgeted dollars again. And the board of directors, quite frankly, gets drugged down the street for spending money that wasn't budgeted. So there can be a balance here between having no placekeepers at all to having dollars put in there that are needed to build the plans in the first place. But let's not fool ourselves. If we don't put something in the budget and we 5 months later decide to spend the money anyway, we will be called to task by our membership for not spending dollars that were in the budget. Just understand, that's where we're going to be if that happens. So I don't completely disagree with Dave when it comes to the holistic placekeepers. Fine. Let's not have any holistic placekeepers. But there ought to be a space in there where Bob can ask for the preparatory dollars for a projected project that might be coming up. So to say that the budget, that the entire program needs to have been approved by the board, I can't agree with that. But I can say perhaps we limit it to the preparatory dollars that are needed. That's my response.
I think we're moving.
So what you do is you schedule this project by going in, looking at the investigation. Say you do the engineering studies, and say it's $50,000. The engineering study.
That's what you put in the budget.
That's what you put in the budget. Right. But then they finish that study and they say, here's what you need to do. You can't do that until the next budget year.
No, actually you can. That's not correct. You can't.
You can do
The
it.
board of directors has the right to adjust the budget mid-year. What we can't do is go back and undo the dues that were charged.
That's right.
But we have the authority as a board to change the budget to allow for the expense of capital dollars, especially in reserves dollars, in mid-year, as long as we actually act and vote to do that. So we can do that.
All right.
Okay?
The capital, I agree. I understand what Tom is saying, and I think we're in partial agreement at least. The preparatory studies, let me just go one step back. I mean, capital replacement items, I mean, I listed, bulleted 7 of them, and I missed a bunch. I mean, I missed the public works program, which table and there's, I'm sure Bob can tell me others. I do believe attached to the budget there should be a list of those items. I believe that the board will at a certain point have to put priorities.
Right.
But I believe that also, that as Tom suggests, that each one of them will require the preparatory work necessary to bring it to project status, the engineering studies. And some will require more than others. And in some cases, it won't be just engineering. It'll be what do we want as a community in some of this facility. So it's a complicated matter. Now, in terms of funding of this thing, last year in the budget, I asked for an additional, I think it was $50,000 to do engineering studies to see the thing. Well, that was going to come out of operational funding. I mean, it wasn't going to come out of, because it was basically looking at different engineering studies. It wasn't, by the way, we didn't get $50,000. There was some of that. But if you have that list and you say, look, these are the replacement items that we could identify at some point in the future we're going to have, then certainly requesting the money to bring those things up to a decision on the project status is perfectly reasonable thing to do. And if there are additional ones, other than my 7 votes, then they go on the list too. But you're not identifying them money that's going to come out of replacement reserve. That's a fantasy. Because you don't know. Just don't know.
And I agree. That's exactly the thrust of what I was trying to get across in my introductory remarks, in that that's what we need here, plans and specs. We need specific plans and specs for these projects. Before you even get there, you need to set proper priorities. And the priorities are what we deem is important for the members in this community. And the members of this community have to come back to us vis-a-vis some form of communication and let us know that we're on track as far as setting these priorities are concerned. So I agree with these two guys that, A, what we should do is change our modus operandi, the way we're doing this today. And let's look at plan specifications, engineering studies, preliminary engineering, which may include land clearance and the whole 9 yards, all of that stuff, and set that aside within a budget for a specific project that has been prioritized. Let's do it this year. Let's move.
We're talking about the budgeting process, of course. This is a conversation which is going to continue.
That's right.
I'm trying to set what I think should be staged. You know, it's interesting, going back to Tom's document, which is sub-motion discussion. You know, under capital budget is the major head. The first sentence is general focus and starts out by saying the capital plan must show a strong focus on the improvement of our IT facilities and utilization in 2016-17 and beyond implementation. You're talking, and that's the crux of the problem. It says a capital plan, but we're talking about a capital budget, and they're not the same thing. They're not. One supports the other eventually. When it's fleshed out, when it's completed, it's not the capital budget. And the areas where I have a hard time with the current document is plans to continue the long-standing capital funding approach. Well, I can agree with part of that because we've done it, it hasn't killed us. I mean, although, in arguments, it has. But, and use the reserves inclusive appreciation is expensive. I find that what I'm recommending is to not do that in this particular instance with respect to capital. But in fact, to build a capital budget on when we're actually going to spend money in here on specific projects. Use operational funds. That's most appropriate, I think, to do the engineering studies. And do them in a prioritized way, or do them across the board for all. You might spend, some might be closer to fruition, might be higher up the ranking list, and you spend more money, you spend more time doing those. But that's a subject of board discussion, and you have to have it. It's laid down on paper. The need the discussion. What are the things that we have to prioritize? Anyway, I know that's complicated. I think we're agreeing a lot, but
this is. I don't think that. If I'm understanding you, Dave, I don't think that's in agreement with what Tom was saying. Tom was saying we will use the capital, for these studies. Build that in. You're saying no, don't build that in for the study. To take it out of operational funds. So I think it's a difference in what Tom was suggesting.
There is that difference, and that's a decent subject for discussion. Do you agree, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of whether you capitalize your research on a project, which in becomes a capital project. Every group and company I ever worked with always capitalized the research and the study and the engineering design costs and all of that went into the creation of the capital project. You always capitalize that. If we take it that we can't have it in the budget until the full plan is done, then we're basically using operation dollars to build a capital project for a project. So that's all. To me, it's a simple. It's not simple at all, but it's a bit of a chicken or egg problem that says at some point. And I'll take it again. I'll go back to the example of if you say we need X amount of money for a building, and we really haven't finished any engineering studies or anything like that. We haven't done any of that work, preparatory work. The history of our organization has been to put, as long as it didn't affect the dues of the membership for that next year, which it does not, if it's a replacement reserve dollars, it doesn't affect the dues for the next year at all until this board or the subsequent boards approve the expenditure. It doesn't really affect the dues of the organization. So the history of this organization has been to put $500,000 in for police station, dressing it, and as part of that $500,000 was the monies to do the study, to finalize the exact dollar amount at some point down the road. What I think there's a middle ground here that simply says, for this particular budget request, you request a study dollar. You say, I need $50,000 to study the building, do the research, pay the engineers to do the work. And that once that work is done and I'm finished, I can come back to subsequent boards or to that board and say that work is now done, and here's what I need out of the capital reserves that we've already got. So historically, we have put big ticket dollars in, $500,000, $500,000 or something, when in fact, part of that was simply to pay for the research. So I'm coming to the middle ground saying, okay, don't put the $500,000 in the budget, even though it doesn't affect the dues for the next year at all, until the actual dollars are expended. I'm coming halfway saying, okay, just put the engineering dollars in there and say I need $50,000 to do the engineering studies and the impact and all that needs to be done, and you capitalize it. I mean, every company I ever worked with capitalized that kind of work.
How can you do that, though, Tom, until you've decided which are the items that we're going to move forward on?
Well, that's the decision we do in the budget. When we get to the budget, we do that. He's requesting dollars for that kind of work. We're not going to decide the budget sitting here today as to what is or isn't in the budget. It's just simply saying that when you come back to us for the budget, kind of meeting it halfway, saying don't do the old approach of saying $500,000 for something in the budget. Put in the budget the actual dollars that are needed for preparation for a study. Some of these things take more than a year to do.
That's right.
So you can't wait till it's all done and planned, because if you do, you've used operational dollars to do all that work. And you really ought to be able to capitalize it.
Well, I think
If I can interrupt you, excuse me a second. We do have another group that's coming in at 12:30. It's scheduled.
Okay.
And Bob, we should try to hold them off or reschedule.
I think
We still have a few more items. We have to break. Go ahead.
Well, I think maybe if we can, I think we need to talk about this. It's a good time to talk. And by the way, I have no problem pretty much with what Tom said, capitalizing the research.
I don't mean to be rude. I need to let they need to make calls for the other.
Okay, what I'm going to propose is that we table this discussion, table this motion, and try to schedule a special session.
I'll second that motion.
All those, any more discussion? All those in favor?
You don't need
Well, there,
You really don't need a second.
to table the motion.
You don't need a second.
We're going to
but-
have
but-
additional discussion
We
about
all-
this
we
at
have-
the next session, is what you're saying.
No, not at the very next session, but what I would propose is that get special meeting, special.
That's what I'm saying, you're saying that at
Working
that,
meeting.
And that, yes,
we'll have additional discussion.
Right.
yes.
Working meeting.
And I think this is very useful.
It is. And we also have some other items that require consideration, and I suggest that they be taken.
Well, like that.
Well, you've got Pat Renault's situation,
Oh,
you've got a
no.
piece of property,
I
you've
think we
got.
can handle that here.
Yeah, let's see if we
I'm-
can.
I'm-
I call the question on the motion.
Yeah.
Motion
Call the
to
question.
table.
All in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
Moving on, the Nicholas Lane property. The only reason why I put this in here was for information. It is requested today to us by a citizen of Bob Roseland. Bob and I talked to him at lunch very briefly. We looked it over. He said he could get to change the wetlands designation parking lots. However, I don't know why we would need to have a 40-person park over at Nicholas Lane. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
In all due respect to your comments, I'm going to make a motion. I make a motion. In all due respect to the officer here, this land is mostly marsh. The most you could get out of it is a parking lot, which is what we don't need. I move that we thank the gentleman for the offer. Reject. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
No discussion.
I'll
I'm sorry. There has to be.
All right.
I won't.
Oh, good.
I'm not going to discuss it. Anybody else? Nobody else wants to discuss it. Okay.
So, I'm sorry, was there a vote?
Yeah.
Not yet.
We're
We're
getting there, Bob.
See,
We're
Mr.
getting there,
Stevens
we're
said-
getting there.
okay.
One more step.
Vote was, that's what,
Okay.
pending actions,
No, you gotta call the vote. You gotta
I
call the
wanna
vote
call
on
the
the motion.
But some,
Call the motion.
but not all board members.
Do it again.
All right, not all board members participated in the last vote, so I'd ask for clarification. Please call the vote again.
okay, we call for the vote. What commentaries? Everybody's ready to say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody said aye.
Any opposed?
Anybody, I looked at everybody's face.
That's fine.
Okay, we have the committee.
Pending actions is nothing. Appointments,
Can't we do them in mass?
Yes.
what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Doug Birch, Neil Glazer, Karen Butterworth, Gary Miller, Mark Clark.
You, just FYI, if I can assist here, let me help just for expedition. Doug, you need to say what they're applying for, just so it's on the record. Doug Parks, first term bylaws and resolutions. Gail Glazer, second term comprehensive planning. Karen Butterwick, first term aquatics. Gary Miller, second term aquatics. Martin Clark, first term environmental and natural assets committee. So the question would be, these are submitted for advisory.
I move that all of these appointments be.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any media questions?
I move.
Can't move it.
I move.
Joe's got a meeting.
I move for adjournment.
We have 2, 3.
He's not needed. He's a citizen. He's not
We
needed.
need, you're slowing
He's
things
a
down.
block.
You're slowing things down, Joe.
The CPI violations, unless I'm missing something, have not been included in the board package that's provided. I was wondering why not, and could they be included in the future?
I don't see any reason why not. I kind of thought they were. You can just take care of that, right?
Yes.
Unless any of the board members object to it.
I have only one question. This is public knowledge. So check folks. Someone
There is a possibility of an issue because some of the CPIs talk about whether or not a person is in arrears, and those,
Right.
that may be a privacy issue.
That's all public information.
Yes, it is public information.
The only thing that I would say here, and yes, it is all public information. The only thing I would say is sometimes as we approach the board meeting, on rare occasion, but it does happen, someone will comply out before we get to the board meeting. If we post it ahead of time, they're going to show, and again, it doesn't matter, I'm just pointing it out to the board, that it will show.
You're suggesting we do it after?
No, I'm not suggesting either, I'm just putting it out there for awareness, that a lot of times, as we approach a board meeting, that may compel someone to take action on it prior to. It doesn't matter to me, I just want to put it out there.
Can we have some copies on the day?
Sure.
One other quick question. Prior to that, I would point out, in terms of what public was not, before these things reach you, they're all discussed at public meetings at the BCC, AFC, whatever. Now, so they're all public. All these things are discussed in public before they get for those who go to choose.
The only issue, Joe, just to, not to respond too much, but just to make sure it's clear, Cheryl hit it on the nose. That was my concern, was that in those public sessions at the ARC session, they don't talk about whether somebody's a user. We do have that information on our report. That was the only difference I was going to. Is there an issue with making that public? If there isn't, I agree.
There's not.
On the board guidance, there's a sentence in capital that says all depreciation which does not include proposed yearly assessment should be identified in a separate report. The only thing that comes to my mind is, what we talk about here would be that we don't depreciate roads right now in the assessment. Is there anything else major like that? Or?
The only reason that's in there, Joe, is in case there is something else that they decide, that Bob in his budget decides not to do that, just let us know. That's all. That's just a full disclosure issue. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
Any other media? I move we adjourn to the boardroom for a closed session. Direct on personnel matter.
Second.
All right.